I hadn't broken in. I was coming home exhausted, sunburned, fresh off a cross-country drive to my ranch. And there they were. 2 police officers, a swarm of neighbors, and her, the HOA president, clipboard in hand, smirking like she'd caught me committing a crime. "You're not allowed on the property," she said. "Multiple violations, unauthorized fencing, unapproved exterior paint, and that truck, it's on the banned list." I stared at my own house, the place I poured my savings and soul into, now tagged with fines and trespass warnings. But she made one fatal mistake. She thought I was just another homeowner who'd backed down. She had no idea I wasn't just fighting for my property. I was fighting for something much bigger. And by the end of the week, her entire board would be begging me for mercy. What did I have that gave me power over every HOA in the country? You won't believe the truth they tried to bury. It started like any other dream come true. I'd spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder, missing birthdays, sleeping in airports, trading weekends for profit margins, just to one day walk away with enough to build something real. And when I finally did, I didn't buy a penthouse or a sports car. I bought 20 acres in the Texas Hill Country wide open land, live oaks, a creek that didn't dry up in summer, and a sky so dark at night you could see the Milky Way like God spilled glitter across it. I built a ranch house, nothing extravagant. Cedar posts, a stone foundation, and a wraparound porch where I could sip coffee and watch the deer move through the tall grass. I named it Lone Ponder because that's what I did out there, just sat, quiet, thinking, healing. I brought my dog, a mutt named Duke, and planted pecan trees in memory of my dad. This wasn't just property. It was peace. Earned. The neighborhood Cedar Ridge Estates was supposed to be a sanctuary. Gated, yes, but marketed as ranch-style living with community charm. The brochure showed families grilling at the pavilion, kids riding bikes, and neighbors waving from pickup trucks. The HOA? Just a formality, I thought. A few dues, a newsletter, maybe a holiday potluck? At first, it was fine. I waved back. I brought a casserole to the welcome mixer. I even joined the email chain about road maintenance. But then came the first letter. It arrived in a crisp white envelope, stamped with the official Cedar Ridge HOA seal. Not an email, a letter, like they wanted it to feel serious. "Dear Mr. Callahan, a violation has been recorded regarding the height of your front yard grass. Per Section 4.2 of the Covenant's architectural guidelines require grass to be maintained at a maximum of 3 inches. Yours measures approximately 4.5. I laughed. 4.5 inches? That was grass, not a crime. I mowed it the next day, no problem. But then came another letter. Then another. Unapproved rock border near the driveway. Exterior wood stain not on the approved color list, despite being the same brand and shade. Dog barking after 8. 45 p.m. Duke had barked once at a coyote. Each notice came with a $75 fine. Then $150 for repeat violations. Then a mandatory meeting. That's when I met her, Margaret Voss, HOA president. Late 50s, perfectly coiffed silver hair, always in pastel polo shirts with the HOA logo embroidered over the heart. She spoke in a honeyed tone, but her eyes were cold like she enjoyed this. "We're not trying to make your life difficult, Mr. Callahan," she said at the meeting, flipping through a 3-ring binder. "We're preserving property values and community standards." I nodded, played nice, paid the fines, adjusted the gravel, repainted the porch. But something felt off. The complaints kept coming over things I didn't even do. My barn door left open? I never opened it that day. Trash can out past 7 a.m.? I hadn't taken it to the curb. And then I started noticing her car, a white Lexus, no bumper stickers, always parked just beyond the gate, idling near my property line when I wasn't home. Coincidence? Maybe. But the final straw came when I found a notice taped to my front door while I was still inside. Boots off, coffee in hand. Unauthorized structure. Elevated fire pit deemed a safety hazard. Remove within 48 hours or face legal action. I built that fire pit with my own hands. Lit it once, with friends, on a Saturday night. Legally. I looked down at the paper, then across the field toward the gate, and I realized this wasn't about rules. This was about control. And Margaret wasn't just enforcing the HOA's power. She was enjoying it. So I did what any man backed into a corner would do. I started digging. Not in the yard. In her. And what did I find? It changed everything. Because the deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just about a fire pit, or grass, or paint. It was about something much bigger. And if I didn't act, I wouldn't just lose my ranch. I'd lose everything I'd spent my life running toward. What exactly did I uncover in the HOA's records that made me realize this was never about me? Because trust me, what came next wasn't just revenge. It was a reckoning. The first time I walked into an HOA board meeting, I still believed this could be fixed with logic. I showed up in boots and a button-down. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to show respect. I brought photos of the fire pit stone-lined, 3 feet from the house, surrounded by non-flammable gravel. I had local fire code references, even a note from a neighbor who'd built something nearly identical and never been fined. I thought facts would matter. I was wrong. Margaret sat at the head of the polished oak table like a judge in a courtroom she'd rigged herself. The other board members, 4 retirees, all pastel-clad and clipboard-armed, nodded along before I even finished speaking. One didn't even look up. Another yawned. "Mr. Callahan," Margaret said, voice syrupy sweet, "we appreciate your effort. But the bylaws are clear, and precedent must be upheld." "Precedent?" I said. "No one else has been fined for a fire pit." "That's not accurate," she replied, flipping open a file. "We've had multiple complaints, and your history of violations shows a pattern of non-compliance." My history? A tall grass? A rock border? A dog bark? That wasn't a pattern. That was harassment. I left that meeting with a $500 fine and a warning, another violation, and they'd file a lien on my property. A lien. On my way home. That night, I sat on the porch, Duke at my feet, staring at the stars. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was stunned. How could a group of neighbors, ordinary people, wield so much power over someone's life? How could they turn a peaceful ranch into a battleground over inches of grass? But then the notices kept coming. Unauthorized solar panel installation. I hadn't installed solar panels. Excessive vehicle storage. I had 1 truck and a trailer, both on my own land. Improper flag display. I'd hung a small American flag on the 4th of July. It came down the next day. Each violation came with a fine. Each fine is doubled if unpaid. And every time I requested a hearing, I was told there was no availability for weeks. Then came the drone. I saw it first as a faint buzz above the trees, small, black, hovering near my barn. I thought it was a neighbor's kid playing around, until it circled my house, then my well pump, then it dipped low, filming my backyard like I was a suspect. I called the sheriff. They came, took a report, and said there wasn't much they could do unless it was flying below 400 feet or recording inside private areas. But I knew who was behind it. I started keeping a log dates, times, and patterns. The drone always came on Tuesdays and Fridays, always around 3:17 p.m., always from the east, near the HOA's observation point on the ridge. And then I found the photos, printed, taped to my mailbox. Me unloading firewood, Duke digging near the fence, even me shirt off, washing my truck in the driveway. Accompanying note, multiple violations observed, cease immediately. I wasn't being monitored. I was being hunted. That's when I stopped fighting the fines. I started fighting her. I requested the HOA's financial records, their meeting minutes, their bylaws, amendment history, every scrap of paper I was legally entitled to. They sent redacted PDFs, blurry scans, pages missing. So I filed a formal complaint with the state's Property Owners Association Oversight Board. Then silence. For 3 weeks, nothing. Until my bank called. My account had been flagged for suspicious activity. Turns out, someone had filed a fraud alert under my name, claiming my property deed was under investigation for fraudulent transfer. I nearly laughed. Then I saw the document. It was forged. Not just fake, it was good. Had my signature, a fake notary stamp, and even a falsified county record number. And it was submitted by the HOA's compliance officer, a title I didn't even know existed. I stormed into their next meeting. "You're committing fraud," I said, slamming the copy on the table. "You're harassing me. You're using drones. You're forging documents. This isn't about rules. This is about revenge." Margaret didn't flinch. She smiled. "Mr. Callahan," she said, calm as ice, "you've shown a consistent disregard for community standards. We're simply protecting the integrity of Cedar Ridge." Then she dropped the bomb. "We've also filed a petition with the county to designate your property as a public nuisance." A public nuisance? For a fire pit? For grass? I nearly laughed. Then I saw the document, and what I read made my blood freeze. Because it wasn't just about me. There was a folder labeled Non-Compliant Owners, Phase 2. My name was at the top, but below it, 7 others. All fined, all harassed, all pushed to sell, and my HOA fined me 11-0 for building a chicken coop, he said. Said it was livestock breeding and lowered property values. I sold my place, moved into a trailer park. He looked at my ranch, at the barn, the fire pit still standing, and the American flag fluttering in the breeze. "You fought," he said, "and you won." Then he handed me a pen. "Teach me how." That moment, simple, quiet, was the beginning of something much bigger than me. Because within a month, I didn't just rebuild my life, I started helping others rebuild theirs. I launched a website, Free Home Alliance, a resource hub for homeowners under HOA siege, legal templates, state-specific rights, whistleblower guides, a forum where people could share their stories without fear. And the stories poured in. A woman in Georgia was fined for letting her kids play soccer in the front yard after 6 p.m. A veteran in Arizona whose service dog was labeled an unauthorized animal and threatened with eviction. A single mom in Nevada who was told she couldn't hang holiday lights because they created light pollution. All of them had been broken down, fined, intimidated, gaslit into silence, until they saw what happened to Margaret Voss. And suddenly, they weren't afraid anymore. The impact spread faster than I expected. Within 2 months, 3 states introduced new legislation to limit HOA power banning excessive fines, requiring transparency in board elections, and criminalizing harassment under the guise of compliance. A federal class action lawsuit was filed against a national HOA management firm that had been using Margaret's playbook across 10 states. And Margaret? She was indicted on 6 counts, including fraud, forgery, and racketeering. Her daughter, Claire, cut a deal and testified against her in exchange for immunity. The video of her walking out of court in handcuffs, silver hair disheveled, no pastel polo in sight, went viral. She lost everything. Her home, her reputation, her freedom. And I'll admit, part of me wanted to feel bad. But then I remembered the night my water was cut. The drone buzzing over my roof. The forged deed. The way she looked at me like I was trash on her perfect lawn. No, I didn't pity her. I pitied the system that let her rise. Because Margaret wasn't unique. She was a product, a symptom of a broken system that gives ordinary people extraordinary power, without oversight, without accountability, without mercy. And that's what this was never really about. It wasn't just a fight over a ranch. It was a fight over autonomy. Over the right to live in your home without being policed by neighbors with clipboards and vendettas. Over the idea that property ownership shouldn't come with a side of humiliation. And the truth? This isn't over. There are still thousands of HOAs across America operating in the shadows, fining families into bankruptcy, weaponizing rules, and silencing dissent. But now they know someone fought back and won. I still live at Lone Ponder. The grass grows a little taller now. The fire pit burns every weekend. Duke barks at coyotes without fear. And every morning, I walk to the mailbox, not dreading another notice, but checking for letters from people like Hank. People who finally found their voice, because that's the real victory. Not the headlines, not the lawsuits, not even the fall of a power-hungry HOA president. It's this, that one person, one can stand up, speak out, and change the game for everyone else. So if you're watching this, and you're being fined for your paint color, if you're being watched through drones, if you're being told you don't belong in your own home, know this, you're not powerless. You're not alone, and you don't have to stay silent, because sometimes all it takes is one no, one refusal to back down, one decision to say, this is my home, and I'm not leaving. So I'll ask you, what will you do when the knock comes at your door? When does the letter arrive? When the system turns against you? Will you pay the fine? Or will you fight? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you've been through this, tell your story. Because the more we speak up, the harder it becomes for them to ignore us. And the closer we get to a world where home means freedom, not fear.